Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Vault Podcast. We're at thevaultreviews.com. If you haven't already checked us out there, send us an email, thevaultmusic1@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at thevaultmusic1, and of course Facebook, facebook.com/thevaultrvws. That's thevaultrvws. Also, check us out on YouTube. We got a YouTube page up with all of our past shows on it, and hopefully down the road some more video content. Recently, I got to sit down with Greg Vance, who's the drummer, or as I like to call the machine behind the kit at Enfold Darkness. And it was a very interesting interview. We got to hear a lot of Greg's early influences on music and some other bands and artists that got him into playing drums in the first place. And we also got some pretty inspirational stories about, going for your dreams and doing what you want to do regardless of the consequences in life, because, we all only have so much time and you got to make a huge impact on what you do have. So the show went so well, though, we had to cut it into two parts. So we're going to start off with part one today. So here you go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Vault Podcast. My name's Zan. I'm back again, and we got a special guest with us today, the drummer from Enfold Darkness. I just pretty much call him the machine, Greg Vance. Greg, what's going on?
Not much, man. Just kind of hanging out. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Glad to have you today. Hopefully we can get some insight into your mind on music of all different kinds of things, from anywhere from artists to bands you like, bands you hate, whatever. So just give us a quick background on what you've been up to lately.
About 2 years ago, I was living in Missouri and playing in this band called Ominous Conception, and was talking to some of the guys in Enfold Darkness. I guess their drummer had kind of moved on to some other stuff, and they had this tour coming up. They were needing a drummer to kind of fill in, but they also needed someone to do a record with them. So I basically was like, hey, that's something I'd be interested in doing. So I came down and, kind of jammed with them and ran their set list with them and stuff after I sent them a live playthrough video of one of their songs. And they pretty much invited me to move to Nashville and join the band, which, for me, I don't know. I guess it was kind of a big leap of faith, but at the same time, it's something I've always wanted to do, and I've always been. The first year or so that I was here, we were still in kind of the writing process, and then once we got the recording booked, it moved pretty fast. I got down there with Jamie King, which is one of my favorite producers. He's done all of Between the Buried Meats records. He's done Through the Eyes of the Dead. He's done just a ton of metal bands that I enjoy, and got to get in there and just rip it out, just do the whole record in 2 days. Unfortunately, the budget didn't really allow for me to be in there for a long time like a lot of people, so I pretty much just had to get in there and just try to knock it out.
So when you moved down there, you were taking over the gig as full-time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were called down there basically just to do the studio, just to tour, or just to do both for a fill-in, or if it was a permanent thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a permanent thing. Jack Blackburn they had playing drums originally. He was on the first record. He went on to play for Vital Remains. I don't think he's playing with them anymore, but he's kind of doing some other stuff. And then they had Chasen Westmoreland. He used to play for Burning the Masses, and but he's actually in Hate Eternal now and touring with the Faceless right now, I think in Indonesia. So, they were kind of in a spot where they had drummers fill in, and no one was really, I guess, wanting to stay and just really take the project and make it their own, Yeah. And as a fan of Enfold Darkness, I saw that it was a very good opportunity, and I still get to put out music with my other band, Ominous Conception. So we'll have some stuff out basically right after the new Enfold Darkness record comes out.
Yeah, one thing I'll say, if you get a chance to go for something that's your dream or something you really want to do, then go for it. That's why we're doing this podcast. I wanted to do a bunch of production stuff before I was going to college, and I just kind of saw that, if I wanted to do that, I was going to have to move to the east of the West Coast at the time to be able to have a job in that. And now look at this, we're doing this for free. And I live in the middle of nowhere, so you just got to go for it if you've got a passion to do something.
Exactly, man. It's 21st century. It's we're all connected with just handheld devices, and it's all a matter of just having the attitude that you're going to make it happen no matter what, and then
Exactly.
things start happening for you. It's pretty surprising, from someone who I've always kind of felt like nothing was ever working out the way I thought it would, and when was I actually going to be able to put out like this awesome record that I'd been practicing my ass off for,
You're gonna have rough times on the way to that, but you just gotta, keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you started a new promotional company recently, right?
Yeah, me and some of my buddies here in Nashville have gotten together and started trying to bring some extreme metal and other crazy kinds of music to Nashville because it's a pretty saturated country music town, and it seems like it's going pretty well so far. We had Origin the other night, and Enfold played that show with them, and it was damn near sold out. It was pretty crazy.
So since you used to live in Springfield and you know what our music scene was like there, how can you compare the two, just as far as like metal and rock goes?
Yeah, well, honestly, it's I'd say it's about the same. I mean, this type of music isn't very popular in most places, and it's a good reason that we have the internet these days. It's not so much in numbers. It's more about like, if there's a small amount of people there and they're having the time of their life, it's better for me than if I'm playing in front of a packed room full of arrogant assholes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people that don't want to be there just got like free radio station tickets given to them or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a lot more fun whenever people actually want to be there.
All right, so we always ask this. We should have asked this when we started the show, but what's been on your playlist lately, or stuck in your MP3 player on repeat, or record player, or whatever you've been listening to lately?
I listen to a lot of Spotify, and I have Spotify Premium, so I will oftentimes find artists through there. It reminds me kind of like how we used to with MySpace, but it's a lot more streamlined. It's you can go to related artists, or you can click like the radio station from each artist or whatever. So, I guess here lately I've been listening to kind of a mixture of things. I mean, it's not all like, crazy metal and stuff. I mean, I've been checking out Hour of Penance a lot. I like them. I'm pretty into this band called Russian Circles. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They're an instrumental band from Chicago, but they're not super crazy or anything. It's just I don't know. It's just the atmosphere they have. I'm a big atmosphere guy,
Yeah, me too. I totally know what you're talking about.
It's just one of those things that attracted me to black metal in the first place was just like that dark atmosphere that it creates as soon as it starts strumming those chords. You know what I mean?
I totally get it. Now, since we're on that subject, if you have to pick one, do you like the clean, heavier, more atmospheric black metal, or do you like the really crusty lo-fi stuff?
Man, honestly, like, I'm probably gonna get some flack for this, but I really don't like that, production sounds like it was recorded in the shedder type situation. Like, more power to them, and I got respect for all the original guys and all that stuff, and Dark Throne, Mayhem, all that stuff. But I feel like it's time that it evolved, and I feel like it was really cool at first, but then it just kind of got overworked, and I don't know, to me, when I put out a record, I want it to be legible. I want everything to be pronounced and preserved, the way that I wanted it to sound, and sometimes I feel like a lot of that gets taken away whenever you're trying to get the most black metal music quality you possibly can, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think even like the last couple Dark Throne releases, they really cleaned stuff up quite a bit. But even some of that older stuff, it's like you said, the kind of the atmosphere of it. Like when I hear some of that original stuff, man, I'm just like I just feel like I'm in somebody's basement getting ready to get like Exorcist or something,
Yeah.
I mean, and then when you hear the like really clean stuff, it's something that sounds larger than life. So and it's just so much heavier.
It adds a whole layer of depth to it. Like I feel like a lot of people who are just in it for the fashion and stuff like that will criticize bands like Enfold Darkness and say, oh well, you guys put too much production into your music and all this stuff. And really, we're every single one of us in the band are about adding that layering, like the depth to the music. And it seems way too troubly and just high end whenever it's those really bad recordings. I I don't know, man. It's not my thing, you know.
Well, I generally would say, I mean, I'm not a musician, but I listen to enough music to kind of know what I'm talking about, I would think. But
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of the lo-fi stuff, I wouldn't say they're really masking their inability to play. But if you're that talented and you're recording on lo-fi, your talent's not going to show through in the music as far as, you know, the
exactly.
drums and the guitar riffs and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it just kind of gets overlooked because it's just such a wall of sound, you know. You know,
Yeah.
for some people, it's the only way to listen to metal, but you know, for me, you know, there's so many different subgenres of metal that you can really just dive in and listen to so many different things and everything has its own atmosphere and feel. So, like I said, I'm not bashing anyone that thinks that's the way to do it, and you know, not saying that it's not working for a lot of people, but just personally with Enfold Darkness, we like production, we like things being legible, and you know, because we spent a lot of time working on this music, you know.
Yeah, one of the things that you've said that hits home the most with me is just getting that overall feel of the music. Because to me, that's more important with any genre than just about anything.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
All right, so what I mean, growing up with music, what got you into music? What got you playing drums? Just what's your quick history on that?
Well, I was raised pretty sheltered, and you know, my mom was super into like super cheese '80s music, which I mean, hey, you know, so some of it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
you know, and my dad listened to like Boston and Led Zeppelin and The Doors, and you know, he had a pretty palatable music taste. So I had a very narrow window growing up of new music to listen to. So I think that whenever I was at an age where I was starting to make friends, I remember particularly there's this kid in my neighborhood that my parents would pay to, you know, kind of like hang out with me while they were at work, kind of babysit. He was an older kid, but you know, kind of give him some incentive so they didn't have to pay a lot of money for a babysitter or whatever. But he was like super into like new metal and stuff, and I was like really little. Like you know, I barely remember it. But I remember he was like super into like Korn and you know, Cold Chamber and
Yep, yep.
all those '90s bands that you know now that it's not the '90s, everyone talks shit on and you know that's garbage and whatever. But at the time, I think that it was I don't know, you know, after Pantera and stuff like that, the '90s took a weird turn, and the weirdness is kind of what made it so popular. So, you know, I'm not gonna lie, new metal was probably my first gateway into like heavy music. You know, I'd listen to Metallica and stuff like that, and I liked it already. But you know, they sound nothing alike. It's still metal, but it's just totally different. So as a kid, you know, I kind of got started with the new metal genre, and which turned into like, you know, listening to like Slipknot when I was in like middle school and stuff like that. And then I think right around ninth grade, you know, eighth, ninth grade, I started really getting into some of the more underground stuff with the birth of MySpace, you know, and being able to get online and just search for bands and new music all day, you know, to my heart's content. So that's when I got into bands like, you know, Cradle of Filth and Dimmu Borgir and stuff like that, while also listening to, you know, Dream Theater and some other progressive bands. So, you know, I guess kind of what I play now is a collection of many different genres. You know, I played in jazz band in school and stuff. So it just like, you know, as I got older, you know, I just kind of started wanting to solidify some of my influences and kind of develop my own style. And you'll notice. I know it's not out yet, but when the new Enfold Darkness record comes out, you're definitely going to. It's like the drums. You can definitely tell that it's a different drummer than the first record. You know what I mean? Like it's still the rapid fire fills and blast beats and you know really festival bass and stuff. But I throw in my own grooves and stuff in there, and you know some of my influences from playing you know in jazz band and stuff like that, and try to give it that whole new element. You know, like hey, it's kind of a bold statement of hey, this is a different drummer, and I'm interpreting the music my own way. You know.
Yeah, some of the metal bands that have more of a jazz influence, and I'm not talking like the not strictly talking like the crazy math rock stuff, but even some stuff like Megadeth or some of the grindcore stuff where they kind of go off into a jazzy feel with kind of a groove. I think that stuff's awesome.
Well, that's the thing, man. Is like, I mean, jazz and and blues and stuff like that. I mean, that is where all of this stuff comes from.
Right.
Blues, and rock and roll getting combined. You get Led Zeppelin, and then, from there it just evolved and evolved and evolved, and it never hurts to know your roots. I mean, that's one of the things that I actually liked about Enfold Darkness. Listening to Our Cursed Rapture was, it wasn't just blast beats and double bass the entire time. There were these ambient moments and these low moments that, whenever there's more quiet parts, it makes the heavy parts, I think, a lot heavier, and then, vice versa.
That, and combined with the production on the records, it's totally.
Yeah, man. I mean, Jamie King, man, I can't say enough good things about him. He's the best producer I've ever, first of all, worked with, but I've talked to a lot of producers on Facebook when we were talking about getting this record recorded or whatever, and just his attitude, man. He's just so approachable. He's so cool, and he's a fellow drummer, so I'd be in the middle of recording something, and I'd be like, hey, man, give me some feedback. You're a drummer, and man, he really built my confidence up a lot, because I was pretty nervous going into the studio. I hadn't really dealt with a real metal producer yet, so it was just honestly one of the best experiences of my life.
So do you remember the very first piece of music you ever purchased or received?
Yeah, it was definitely Master of Puppets by Metallica was my very first one. And that was, man, being a little kid and hearing that, it was just...
I could imagine. I didn't really get into Metallica until later, because kind of like you, I followed the new metal path, and I was all about that stuff for the longest time.
Yeah, and it was like when I first heard it, I really liked it, and it took me a while to really understand a lot of the stuff that was going on, because, like I said, up until then, I'd been listening to like stuff with my parents and my family and stuff like that, so I hadn't really been exposed to the thrash, which would later pave the way to my career.
Yeah, and all the other styles that you end up enjoying.
Yeah, definitely.
So going back to you playing drums for a second, what band or what drummer kind of led you down that path to decide, hey, this is what I want to do?
Well, from a young age, I knew I wanted to be a drummer, just from like, man, I don't remember exactly where I was at, but I was with my family. I was really little, and just saw this dude make a drum set as bitch. Like, I don't know what happened, but I was just like completely mesmerized by seeing a person, that I don't remember who the dude was. I don't remember who he was playing with. I just remember watching this guy tear a drum set up and being like, that's what
was it like at a concert or something?
Man, honestly, I don't remember. I think it might have been at some type of fair, or we lived in a really small town. Like I said, I grew up pretty sheltered. That's basically where it started, and then from then on, I was just like, all I could think about was drums. And then I didn't actually get a drum set until I was in like 9th grade. And I had a small one, like when I was a little kid, I messed around on or whatever, but it wasn't an actual drum set. But when I first got my real drum set, I was in like 9th grade. And at this time, I'd been listening to like Slipknot, so obviously Joey Jordison was probably my first.
Right. Yeah.
As far as like, because I'd listened to the drummer of Korn and all these new metal bands, and I wasn't very impressed, to be honest. I just thought the music was heavy, and I was angry at the time, and whatever. So, but I think Joey Jordison was probably one of the first drummers that actually I was like, wow, dude, that dude's actually like being creative with this stuff. And then from there, I got more and more thirsty for it, and that's when I found Nicholas Barker. He played for Cradle of Filth and Dimmu Borgir, and he was probably one of the first drummers that ever like, I think, blew my mind, like as a...
Yeah, I totally agree. I saw a drum cam video of him like years ago, and I was like, holy cow, this guy's crazy.
Yeah, it's so crazy, man. Like, yeah, man. And then, obviously there's the guys like George Calais, and I mean, there's just so many good drummers. John Longstreth, man, like I've learned so much through the years just paying attention to his career. And, like I said, we got to play with Origin not too long ago, and just getting to hang out and talk drums with him, and I had him watching me while I was playing, and I was like, man, I want some advice, like You've been doing this for a really long time, and it never hurts to humble yourself, to let, your influences know, hey, I want you to pay attention to what I'm doing, and if you see me doing something like a dumbass, then tell me.
Yeah, and it's cool that he would give you the time to do that. He's not some like, arrogant rock star. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of that stuff has kind of gone by the wayside over the years.
Yeah, dude, he's so cool, man. He's an awesome dude. I consider him a friend now. But also Behemoth, Opeth, those are two bands that I feel really paved the way for me to, sometimes it's hard to stay inspired whenever you're playing local shows and there's 5 or 10 people there, and then you're getting up and then you're going to work, and then you're promoting your ass off on all this stuff, and just it's never panning out. But then you do it for the reason that you always have. You sit down and you listen to someone and they inspire you, and it makes you keep pushing for it, and now I feel like I'm at a point where it's starting to come together. I'm not saying that it is, but that it has came together, but I feel like that is definitely starting to come together, and I feel more confident in the fact that I'll be, able to play music at a higher level than I have in the past, which that's what we all want. I'm not expecting to make money, make a lot of money or anything like that. Just getting to be at a point wherever your band can be semi-self-sustaining to where you're not having to work your 50-hour-a-week job and still buy everything for the band. There's actually people who care about this band, and they're purchasing merchandise, and they're interacting with us on Facebook and stuff like that. It's just an awesome feeling to kind of go from, playing in bands where it just seems like a lot of people didn't really pay attention, to playing in a band that actually has somewhat of a fan base and actually cares about the fact whether you're going to put out a record or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like we said earlier, persistence pays off. If you want it bad enough and you keep going, eventually things are going to fall in place.
Yeah, there's a lot of sacrifice, man. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like any of this stuff's easy, because to this day, I'm still we're all working full time. We're putting everything we have into it. And it never really gets easy, but I definitely will say that it has become kind of a regiment for me, like it's a part of who I am. I have to make sacrifices for it. I love it. It's I think probably one of my main things that makes my quality of life good is the fact that I'm able to express myself through music,
Yeah, and when you're ingrained with something like that you love, it ends up, even though you might have rough times, it ends up not seeming like work. I mean, that's what we're doing with this website, trying to put out all the reviews, editing podcasts, doing this, doing that, promoting. But when you love it, it's not work,
Exactly, man. I mean, that's what, we're not here for a very long time, and if you go through life just going through the motions and doing what everyone says that you should do, I don't think you're going to end up being very happy. I think that you have to make time to do the things that you find enjoyable, because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow, and what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Do you want to be the guy that was on time for work all the time, clocked in, clocked out, and that was it? Or do you want to be the guy that said, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to in my case, I'm going to put albums out, whether I make money off of them or not. I'm going to do this because I feel like these albums will outlive me. Well, just like every musician, whenever a musician dies and they've left you a discography, you feel closer to them in a way. Like you have the one thing that they spent their whole life working on. I just don't feel like you get that with a lot of other forms of art.
Yeah, and that's kind of a side note. Like you said, you might not get rich doing this. You might make a living doing it and be okay, but the thing is, you're doing what you want to do with your life. You're not wasting it, sitting at work saying shoulda, coulda, woulda, and just saying, oh, I'm going to live the American dream of having all this stuff, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to live my life and do what I want to do.
Definitely, yeah.
There's a side question I want to get on this because of your location in Nashville, but what is your thoughts on the generalized state of music? I know it's a broad question, but we're just talking all genres, all formats. Just what's your general opinion on what's going on, like, nationwide?
Well, I definitely think that as much flack as Lars from Metallica got whenever he was like, Napster is Satan and this is bad and, we're screwed. Everyone was very mad at him at first, including myself. I was like, what does this guy need to, whatever. But, going through the phase of, that whole MySpace thing, and then all these touring websites, and it being like incredibly easy to just completely steal a band's entire discography, like while you were just on the internet with talking to your friends, you could just steal like 100 discographies.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna lie, I did some downloading when when I was younger and stuff, and oftentimes I would download bands to check them out, and then later buy their records.
I did the exact same. Yeah, I did the exact same thing. Like you'd download like 50, 60 different songs from different bands you never heard of, just whatever was the highest seeded, so you could download it quicker, and then go out and buy their albums of whatever you liked.
Exactly, yeah. So I feel like that whole situation really screwed us, because it's just easier for people to steal your music, and everyone will justify it to themselves. Well, I don't really got the money to buy the album, and at least I'm listening to your music and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna bash anyone. I know, coming from a guy who works 3 jobs and plays in a band, I know money's tight, but really the only way for bands to, especially bands that you really like, if the only way for them to continue putting out records is if you buy their record. Like, you take your hard-earned money and say, hey, thanks. I love this record. Please make another one. And, because that's really the only way. Like, even when bands are signed, people get this, I don't know, they just get this view in their head that whenever you're signed, you've made it. And, like, like all of a sudden you're just going to be able to make a living off music. And that's not the case. Like, basically record labels serve as banks. Like, they will loan you money, but they will get that money back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and one way or another.
Yeah, and if you're not selling records, then it's going to be, like your show money, they're going to get it somehow. So, like, by not buying a record from a band that you really like, you're just kind of putting nails in their coffin. You know what I mean? Like, I make an attempt to buy records when they come out. If I can't afford it, I at least will, like, listen to it on Spotify and, share it and whatever until I can get the money to buy it, because it's important to me as a musician to support other musicians that inspire me.
You brought up 2 things I want to touch on real quick. One thing would be the record companies. With the way that everything is going, like that you can just get on the internet, you can produce anything you want. Just it's so DIY and it's cheap and decent quality now. Do you think record companies are going to be a thing of the past with everything except for the whatever pop music is going on?
And one part of me says yes, because, it is very easy to just get a program, do everything yourself, and then you got all the social media and you got all this stuff, all these tools at your disposal. But the one thing that I will say that they have an advantage on, they have the in with all these different people, like distribution is something that a lot of people don't really think about. And they're like, oh, I'll just throw it on the internet.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, distribution deals, like those really help you. Like, I would have never heard of Enfold Darkness probably, at least for a long time, because sometimes there's just so many bands being flooded in your face constantly on the internet that, I like to go out and just go to record stores and buy records the old school way. Just look through them and be like, well, this looks badass, and buy it. And that's what I did with the Enfold Darkness record. I was actually in FYE in the mall in Springfield, Missouri, and was flipping through the new releases, and the Enfold Darkness record was sitting there. And the album cover and the logo and the song titles, I was like, man, I'm going to check this out, And I loved it, man. I listened to that record a lot, Like, I'll still put Our Cursed Rapture and listen to it. And, I like doing that. And I think that the fact that you're getting your music put places that people go to get away from the internet sometimes, still is a good thing. Like, I don't like the idea of not being able to have the record. Everyone's trying to go digital, and I've even seen bands being like, well, we're not even going to make physical copies of this. We're just going to put it online. Like, to me, that man, like, call me old school, but buying a record and opening it up, looking at the artwork, reading the lyrics, having it in your hand, that is an experience in itself.
Well, I'm sure you saw recently, I think it was 2014, where vinyl sales were up higher than they've ever been in 18 years.
Yeah, and then that's the other cool thing about metal crowds, man. It's like people act like, well, metal's nothing, like, there's not anything to be done there. But honestly, man, metal fans are some of the most dedicated fans in any genre. Like, if they love a band, they'll love the band. They will support them. You know what I mean?
One more thing that I wanted to touch on that you mentioned about just stealing music. I've talked to a lot of people personally, and I've seen some people online that do this where they just because of, for whatever reason, they will not buy the record, or maybe a band puts their record online for free, but they'll spend every last dime they have on every little piece of merch. And I've seen a lot of bands will like put out they're almost like turn into Kiss as far as like merch marketing machines, where they will like put their band logo on everything, but they just give their records away for free. I just get your thoughts on that.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. I mean, my band from Missouri, Ominous Conception, we started off selling our EP, and then it kind of got to the point where someone bought a shirt, they got a free CD. You know what I mean? Like, whenever you're trying to get your music out there, and sometimes you got to take hits like that, and would you rather just have someone listening to your album or someone wearing your logo on their shirt walking around with their friends, and their friends going, "Hey, who's that?" Like, that's a form of advertisement, and I totally get it. Whenever this record comes out, we're definitely going to be having package deals. Like, there's going to be an incentive to get the record for cheap by getting merchandise. It's like I said, it's definitely not a bad idea.
Do you think it's weird that people actually gravitate towards the merchandise now more than they do the actual copies of the music?
Man, honestly, like, I'm the type of person that I wear mostly band shirts anyway, but I always like having the record first and foremost. But I understand, especially whenever you're dealing with younger people, there's this whole, like, I don't know, like, this kind of click thing to it.
Yeah, the whole image and the music scene thing.
Yeah, and I've never really been too concerned about it. Like, sometimes I get shit because people are like, "Oh man, are you playing a black metal band, and you're not like wearing like leather and all this crap all the time." And I'm just like, yeah, well, I didn't start playing music for fashion. And sometimes I think it's kind of funny whenever bands kind of take themselves too seriously to the point where they feel like they have to dress up to get a crowd. I mean, I understand, like, I'm a huge Demu Borgir fan. I like old Cradle of Filth and stuff like that. There's a difference between theatrics and fashion. And I think a lot of people could really take some notes on that, between, putting on a show and just wearing a uniform. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fantastic point that I agree with you, but I have never thought about it that way. I mean, you have bands like you just said, or like Kiss, or way back in the day Wasp, or Alice Cooper, or whatever.
Yeah. King Diamond.
Yeah, that's full on theatrics. But then you get some of these like emo bands that they all have to have their hair straightened and tight pants, and I mean,
that's a uniform, if you ask me. Like,
exactly.
Whenever you show up to a show, like, I also like, hardcore music and punk, and I like a lot of different genres. But whenever you show up to a show and everyone looks the same, it's a uniform. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go out of my way to stud out a vest and all these things just to do it. Like, I understand, like, I have a lot of friends who wear a lot of patch vests and stuff like that, and if I wasn't 6'7", I'd probably dress a lot cooler. But like, I understand that, because you're representing bands that you like, you're putting their patches on your stuff, and etc. But when you're going out of your way to just like do your hair all crazy and like wear contacts or like wear eyeliner all the time, and I'm not bashing you, but I just think that, like, my personal opinion is that it kind of, I don't know, you just kind of miss the point of music. Like, it's just music. People shouldn't feel like they can't go to a show because they're not dressed a certain way.
Whoa, 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 hold your horses. We gotta cut this off for today. Like I said, we got 2 parts, so next time we'll be giving you part 2 of the interview with Greg Vance from Enfold Darkness. Again, send us an email, thevaultmusic1@gmail.com, facebook.com/thevaultrvws, and again, YouTube page. Subscribe. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Until next time, see ya.
Mm-hmm.